The free application for federal student aid, better known as FAFSA, is the annual application for financial aid provided by the government, including scholarships like Pell Grants and student loans. The Department of Education confirmed the FAFSA for the 2026 to 2027 school year will open by the federally mandated date of October 1st. Here was some advice for parents and students is Cathy Mueller, Mapping Your Future Executive Director. Cathy, thank you for being here. Let's start with why the FAFSA is such a crucial piece of the college financing puzzle, and how would you compare that to scholarships or private loans?
So the FAFSA is a very crucial part of the process of applying for and pursuing post-secondary education because the FAFSA is used for a lot of different types of financial aid, not just federal. Even though it has federal in the name, it's also used by states for determination of their state financial aid programs. And colleges and universities also use it for their institutional aid. And even some private foundations use the FAFSA information for private scholarships as well. So all students really should complete the FAFSA, whether they think they will qualify for any federal need-based aid and maybe they think they don't want student loans, but it's really important to go ahead and complete the FAFSA because it qualifies you for all kinds of financial aid, and also it will help you determine whether or not you qualify for any need-based aid.
So we have that opening on October 1st. Why do you recommend families submit the FAFSA as early as possible?
So some really good news, the FAFSA is actually already now available. The Department of Education announced just yesterday that they've released the FAFSA ahead of the October 1 date. So that's great news. People can go ahead and fill it out right now. But there are several reasons why students want to go ahead and fill it out as early as possible. One of those is that when they complete the FAFSA at the very end, they're going to get an estimate of their federal financial aid eligibility. Now, that's just a federal part of it, but it will let them know if they qualify for any need-based aid, and it kind of gives them an idea of what college or school or university they might be able to afford based on that federal financial aid estimate. Also, it's an important part of the college planning process. So the sooner you get that task done, the sooner you can focus on other things like applying for admissions and applying for scholarships, writing essays, or taking entrance exams. So all of those are important parts of the college planning process. And finally, one of the main reasons you want to get that done is there is some financial aid, particularly institutional aid, and that's the aid offered by schools, colleges, or universities that is awarded on a first-come, first-served basis. And so you want to get your application in early, and if you're eligible for that, you'll likely receive it. Now, schools and colleges and universities have what they call priority deadlines, and as long as you meet that priority deadline, in most cases, you're qualified for institutional aid as long as you're eligible. But it's still important to go ahead and get it in as soon as possible.
And for people new to this process, how do you get started? What documents should you have on hand so that you're prepared when you open that application?
So the first thing that a student and at least one parent, if the student is considered dependent, needs to do is to set up their account at studentaid.gov. And to do that, really what they need is their social security number. They'll need other personal information, and they'll want to have their phone with them as well for multi-factor authentication setup. But it's a really easy process. It's probably similar to other processes in creating accounts. But I do encourage both the student and the parent to make sure that they get their social security number correct when they set up that account at studentaid.gov, because the Department of Education is going to verify the student and the parent or parent's information with the Social Security Administration. So you want to make sure you have that accurate, because that's going to be matched up, and you want to make sure it doesn't hold up any of your financial aid because there's a mismatch. Also, because they'll be doing that in real time, and you'll be able to go ahead and complete the FAFSA if you make sure that you have your Social Security number correct. And that's also something you can't really change easily. It really is a difficult thing to change if you get it wrong the first time. Also, the other thing that I recommend when you're creating your studentaid.gov account is don't use a work email and don't use a school email. This is going to be the account for the student and for the parent. They're going to each have their own account, and that's going to be their accounts for the rest of their lives. And so you want to make sure that you use a personal email address that you're going to have access to in the future if you ever need to reset your password. And if you use a school email, a student's going to graduate from school and they're not going to necessarily have access to that email in the future. And if a parent changes jobs, they won't have access to that email after they change their job. So I can't emphasize enough to use a personal email address you're going to have access to in the future.
And finally, I'm sorry to cut you off here, but I wanted to ask what some of the biggest changes students and parents should be aware of this year under the Trump administration, if there are any changes.
So there are some changes. One of the big changes that was a good change for a lot of people, and that is the change in asset information. In the past couple of years, if you had an asset like a business or some other investment or a farm, you had to include that whether or not it was a very big asset or not. Now they're saying that as long as you have 100 or fewer employees in that business or that farm, or now they've added fisheries, then you don't have to include that asset. Now, students this year will be under some new rules that were had gone into effect with the budget reconciliation bill that was passed this past summer. And the biggest change there is some of the student loan limitations. We don't know all of the details yet because they're actually going to be going through negotiations and setting out the rules for some of those. But we do know that parents are going to be limited in the amount they can borrow. Parents will only be able to borrow $20,000 per year per student for a total of $65,000 per student. Now, if a student is planning to attend a very expensive school or go out of state, that could have an impact on how much money they have available to them under the federal loan programs to pay for an education. They can look at other loan options, but it may be more expensive and harder to obtain. That's the biggest change really impacting students that are undergraduate students for the 26-27 academic year. There are some other changes too, and some of those are good changes, like expanding the Pell Grant program to include workforce programs. Again, the rules haven't been written for that yet, but we're looking for some expanded programs that students can take, like credentialing programs and certificate programs.
And Cathy, we're out of time, but there is so much to talk about on this subject, so we'll have to have you back. Appreciate your insights.
Thank you very much.